Okay, welcome back. So, coming up next is freedom of speech and freedom from violence. This is a sharing session by Dr. Vino Giri, and Dr. Vino is our in house expert on women welfare. So, from the start of 2020, Dr. Vino has been part of the incident management team for COVID-19 on the World Health Organization and the lead researcher for an ongoing study focusing on women in regard to freedom of speech and sexual gender bias violence and many more. In fact, that is how I got to know Dr. Vino because she was looking for subjects to interview for this women study. And this is a very happy to be able to bring in Dr. Vino as our in-house expert on women welfare. I think this is a very rare treat, and I seldom see this in general normally. So to have access to her research studies that she's able to share with us what's going on so that we can go out into society as informed she's knowing our rights and also knowing what to do based on sharing and recommendation by Dr. Vino. So without further delay, please help me to welcome Dr. Vino. Hi, Dr. Vino.
Hi, Joy. Hi, everyone.
Thank,
Can you hear me?
yes, I
Okay,
can
right?
hear you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much for saying yes to being our expert and also saying yes for being a part of today's launch day.
Thank you so much to you too, and the whole She Network to give me this platform and for me to actually contribute. It's all that I've ever dreamt of, since I was a kid to contribute to the gender.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. Yes, so I truly believe in the power of research. Well, I do positive psychology and we're all about research and practical tips. So I think it is a shame for your research to just go on white paper. I think everyday women need to know what the research is saying and what we can glean lessons that we can learn from the research and from what is going on from the ground level. So, Dr. Vino, let's dive straight in. Perhaps you can start off by telling us what exactly is gender based violence.
Right. Yeah. So that was I wanted to start off the session by actually understanding what is gender-based violence and how it is actually such a big issue for women from all backgrounds, even for us. So basically, when we hear the word gender-based violence, that means it's some sort of violence perpetrated on towards us based on our gender. So if we look in a bigger picture, it could happen to men as
Dr.
well.
Vino, sorry,
Okay.
are you able to increase your volume? We're getting
Yes.
feedback that it's
Okay.
a bit soft.
Is this okay? Is it better?
Okay. It is louder a little bit. Is that your maximum?
I guess so. I'm using my laptop. So let me see. Is this better now? Is it okay?
Do you have a earpiece? I'm just wondering whether earpiece would be helpful.
Uh, yeah, but I do not have a one with a microphone. I only have it for my iPhone though.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
what I'll
Perhaps
do is
speak
I'll talk.
louder. Hmm.
Yes, I'll talk louder. So is this
Okay.
loud enough?
Thank you.
Is this okay?
Y- Okay. I think let's just proceed unless we get more feedback. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I will be louder. I'm so sorry. Okay. So, yeah, gender based violence, as I was saying, is actually related to any kinds of violence perpetrated on a person based on the gender. So, when we look at gender based violence on women, so it's basically violence, any kinds of violence perpetrated on a woman purposefully. So, I hope everyone can hear me clearly now. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so according to the UN Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women, they say that violence against women is a manifestation of historically unequal power relations between men and women, which have led to domination over and discrimination against women by men to the prevention of the full advancement of women. So, some statistics on gender unbalances that we can see in a daily picture is that women are less majority of the world's poor. So I'm sorry, are the majority of the world's poor. So 70% of people living in poverty, having less than $1 a day, are basically women. And we could also see that women are almost entirely excluded from political power. So they hold 15.6% of elected parliamentary seats globally. And if you see in a global perspective, women only hold 1% of the world's land. So basically, ownership, I'm talking about ownership. So yeah, so I think I've answered your first question. So basically, the definition of gender-based violence is any kinds of violence, um, on any kinds, any gender, but today we are going to focus on women particularly. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
What about in terms of gender-based violence? What are the different types?
Yes. Okay. So that is the next part that we have to look at. So basically, people, when I was working, when I'm working on this research, or when I've been working in the research field for a long time, people think that only when you get hit, it's a violent act. But actually, it's not only when you get hit or when you have scars on your body, but it's bigger than that. It involves your mental health as well. So generally we can actually divide it into three groups. So first we have sexual violence. So sexual violence is basically anything related to sexual act on a person. So it could be harassment sexually, or rape, or attempt rape, sodomization, molestation, anything related to that, including marital rape, rape, even occurring among husband and wife. And then we have physical gender-based violence. So this is the most common and the most the most common violence, I would say, that people know about. People getting hit. So women getting hit by, it's not only their spouses, but it could be also people they work with. It can be their, anybody at all. And then next we have psychological abuse. So this is basically going so deep. It's going into your emotions as well as your mental health. So a person doesn't need to beat you to abuse you. So that is what it actually means. So it could be any kinds of humiliation, discrimination, to gaslight you, or to make you feel that you're always in the wrong, even when you're not doing anything, to the extent where you actually lose your sanity. So and then there are actually some root causes. I would say that certain triggers then can actually trigger these risk factors, these causes for gender-based violence. So, for example, alcohol consumption or substance abuse. So, we can say that when a person consumes alcohol to a very to a very high extent, to beyond the limit, or maybe he's using some kind of substance, for example, meth, or anything like that. So it is not, it doesn't cause the violence. So people make a mistake, people make mistake thinking that when somebody drinks, it makes him to be a perpetrator, to abuse somebody. But that's not the right thing actually. So when we talk about gender based violence, um, and when it's when alcohol or substance use is in that picture, it just kind of like triggers it a little bit. It just makes them probably more angry, or probably full with emotions, and then just that kind of trigger. So it doesn't actually cause any kinds of violence. So people tend to think that everyone who drinks alcohol, they tend to abuse, or everyone who uses substances. So that's a wrong concept, because people who are generally not using or not drinking can be perpetrators too. So yeah, I just wanted to make that as a point. And when you look at sexual abuse, there are two kinds of sexual abuse. One is sexual exploitation. So this happens when somebody reaches out to a person to exchange, you give me sex and I give you money. So usually they target the vulnerable populations, usually single mothers who lose place, shelter, or suddenly lose financial backup or something like that. And when they go to people, they actually usually know, they actually have connection with the person. And when they go for help and the person says, okay, you do this for me and I give you money. So that is sexual exploitation. And sometimes out of desperation, they have 3 or 4 children to feed, and they don't know what to do, so they do that. So this usually happens in very, very people like vulnerable population, usually refugees or migrant workers, or people belonging to, they don't have a very good social economic background. And another thing is totally sexual abuse, so there's no consent or whatsoever, so they just get abused sexually. So we all know, right, it starts from a very young age. Children as young as 3 or 2 years old get abused sexually, and it goes up to even when the person is 80 years old. So things like this. Yeah, so I think I kind of explained a lot about types of gender-based violence. Yeah, and I wanted to also make a point that during the MCO, currently we had MCO since the 18th of March, and if you look at that point of view, usually it increases the risk for any kinds of gender-based violences. Usually increases during crisis. So sometimes they say a lots of violence. No, I mean, it's actually proven lots of violence happens during war, or when there's an army, supposed to be guarding a certain village or a place, but they end up abusing everybody there, or humanitarian people who work in the United Nations, or things like that. They abuse their power by preying on women. So during MCO, like the Malaysia, I mean our country, they actually found that 57 they actually had a 57% increase um, in calls from women who were basically abused at home, so seeking for help. So in times of so this happens in our country, so I'm just bringing this to light because things like this happen. It's just not all the time outside. A lots of things don't get reported or don't ever come out. So I think, yeah, that I spoke a lot about that, I guess. Yeah. So I think, yeah.
Mm. So, Dr. Vinod, so I hear you mentioning about the
Yeah.
57% increase in calls. I think that's very alarming because it's more than half. I've also have read reports, not in Malaysia, but in Australia, about um, uh, women who were quarantined in a hotel. In fact, like pretty high quality hotel, but they were somehow ended up giving sexual favors to the guards that were guarding them. Um, and it was more than one incident, so there were several women involved in the whole case. So that is very alarming, and that is very, very real because we're talking about the current pandemic, and this is what's going on that most of us might not be aware of. So, what advice would you give to us? How can we know who among us might be having a situation like this? What can we do about it?
Okay, so that's a good question. So when you brought up this incident, I mean, a very similar incident actually happened in Malaysia as well. So it involved a policeman, and this was during the COVID, during the pandemic, where they are supposed to, we were all supposed to be under lockdown, and he actually sexually abused two foreigners in a hotel room for few days, and then he was then caught red-handed. So things like this are happening. So, when I'm working on this research, and even before this, when I work with vulnerable populations all the time, so one thing that I can tell everyone, you see, in this world, everyone plays a role. Even if sometimes a person doesn't go through domestic violence, it doesn't mean that the person will not know what is going on around her, or him. So, like for example, we are not living alone in a closed home. So we go out in a daily basis, we are working, we have a group of friends, we are all connected to one another. So when somebody is going through a very difficult moment in terms of getting harassed, or they might be in a very abusive relationship, it's not, you see, they don't have to have scars to actually tell you that they're abused. They could be mentally depressed, because now mental health is a huge issue all over the world. But sadly, in Malaysia, when it comes to mental health, or when it comes to various kinds of violences, it's always a taboo, and it always made into a stigma. So people do not voice out freely, they do not seek help. They're kind of they're living in fear. So this is what I um what I get when I'm carrying out research, especially when I'm currently working in this women research, these are my, my findings when I speak to women, when I speak to women in general from various backgrounds. They're basically, they have always lived in fear, and they do not know where to go to seek help, because even when they kind of show that they're not in the right situation, or they kind of feel this they somehow when someone is depressed or distressed or going through some emotional battle, it shows up. But nowadays people don't really, like I would say that lots of people have become more selfish these days. They do not actually want to ask, or even how would I say, okay, they when they see somebody being down, they do not have the time to go and ask the person if you're okay. Do you need help? Do you want somebody to talk to? Because when you do this to somebody, it changes their life basically. So it happens. So when I speak to women, and when I research, I do this research project to find out their gaps, and what did they go through, and how they fought all the battles they went through. A lots of them fought it on their own. Some of them had help, but lots of them fought it on their own, and it was very difficult for them, because a lots of them were suicidal, a lots of them attempted suicide many times. But thank God, some they received some help at the end, and some of them are still very much depressed till this moment. And yeah, so what I would like to say, we are speaking to two groups of people. One are those who are going through this in a daily basis, and one who are seeing what's happening around them. It could be among their friends, it could be among their colleagues, even their family members. So we all have to play our roles. So if we are going through some sort of abuse, we have to be strong. We should not give up, because we have to always remember that our life is precious. A lot of people fail to remember that when they're having some kind of issue, when they're battling something, they tend to think that their life is worthless. So we should not let that happen. Nobody can tell us that our life is worthless. Every day we breathe, every day we wake up, it shows how precious our life is. We are given another day to live. So first of all, we have to fight this. We have to fight this. So do not wait till the last, to the very, very critical part. Warning, there are always warning signs. We are always given some kind of signs, to show us something is not right around us. So always be alert. If you think something is not right, believe your gut. Believe your gut feeling and go with it. Analyze it more. Okay, is it really not right? Is it really something wrong somewhere? Okay, what is going on? Is my partner different? Is he treating me different? So things like this we have to do in a daily basis. If you feel something is not right. You see, everybody goes through battles, different kinds of battles in life. Lots of people suffer at workplaces too. So when they are going through some sort of harassment at workspace, they should not keep quiet, because I know it jeopardizes, their daily income, and they have family they have to feed, they have to go to work. But working in such environment is actually going to kill your soul, and you're going to lose your whole life before you know it. So whenever certain harassment or certain, it can be a tiny, when you tell about this to another person, they can take it very lightly. But you as a person, you as your own self, you have to take anything at all that bothers you as a huge issue and work on it immediately. Get help, seek help. And for those who are seeing somebody in distress mode, you just have to go to them and ask if they're okay. That makes a huge difference. When you ask somebody who is silent and who's battling something emotionally or going through something, and when somebody comes and asks them if they're fine, are they okay, it makes a lot of difference, because I've gone through that, and I have actually made a difference in people's lives, just by being there, just to listen and then help them however you can. So all they need at that time is for someone to listen, you know. So yeah, so lots more to talk, but I think, yeah, I just wanted to point out the important points. Yeah.
Hmm. Would you be able to, of course, respecting confidentiality, but to share in general um, any stories about a woman who was in a situation where she was experiencing some form of gender-based violence, and how she was supported and how she helped herself out of the situation?
Okay, so I've been working with lots of women in this case, so from various backgrounds. But in general, what I can share is, okay, like usually when we talk about violence, people always think that it only happens at home, or it only happens between a man and a woman who's related to that person, But it also happens in workspace, or it also happens in educational institutions. So there are many experiences that people have shared with me, women have shared with me. But for example, when I speak to domestic violence survivors, you see, when they were going through so many problems, it started basically after they get married, and then after some time, after all the 1 2 months being together and being happy, and then slowly their partner kind of show their tantrums, so like tiny things make them angry, and then they hit their wives. But at that particular moment when they get hit, or when they're verbally abused, uh, many of them think that it's okay. Many of them think that, oh, okay, probably he's angry, so he's allowed to do that. I'm supposed to withstand it because I'm his wife. So this is how they tell me, doctor, because this is how I thought everybody goes through. This is how I thought, like, life is all about. When you get married, you get scolding, you're supposed to get beating, and that's totally fine. But as the relationship progresses, and then they started, they start, when they have kids, for example, and then the partner tend to lose interest towards them. And then when that happens, and when the woman, they try to, they're trying to be loving, and they're trying to be nice to their husbands. In return, they're treated terribly. They're basically raped without their consent, and they think that is okay too. A lots of them think that it's okay for a man to have a sexual relationship with his wife at any time he likes. But if the woman is not prepared or not in the mood, and she's not supposed to fight back. So if she says that she's not in the mood and he still insists, so that is considered rape. But many of them do not know that. They think that that's fine, and they kind of get battered along the way. They kind of get beaten up along the way. And then things get worse. They get humiliated at work, or they do not have privacy. So things like that happen, and then it gets worse where their kids are involved. The partner tends to show tantrums on their kids. So only when their kids are impacted, only when their kids are coming into the picture, and when they see the partner is being really violent towards their kids, that's when they come to a realization. They've gone through so much in their life, but at that time, you know it didn't occur to them that what they faced was wrong. But when their kids were coming into the picture, that is when they realized, oh my God, I cannot stay on anymore. If I continue with him, he's going to kill my kids, and he's going to kill me, or he's probably going to kill me, and then who's going to take care of my kids? So that is when they come out. But when they come out for help, it's after a long time. They've gone through a lot, and many of them don't make it out. Many of them basically lose their lives, or many of them kill themselves. So those who come out, they are the ones who actually empower others. They are the survivors. They go out, they go give speeches, and they go and give talks. They talk to researchers like me. They share everything with me, and researchers like us, so that the stories come out, and so that we can actually create interventions for those who are actually going through this in a daily basis. So this is what happens in a home. But many things happen at workspaces too. Bosses treating their women colleagues in a very wrong way. When they see the person is skilled. For example, she's skilled, and she's a very good person, and at work she contributes a lot, and she has the brains, and she has the skills for that specific task. But just because she's a single mom, who's separated from her husband, and she's young, and she looks good, she's sexually harassed. So when she's working in a daily basis, she has to meet clients. Her boss tells her and tells the client, okay, my manager who's coming to meet you is a very beautiful widow. So she will liaise with you and get the project done. So when she hears this, she just gets demotivated. She feels like, why am I supposed to be branded as that when I'm a skillful manager? Why am I even looked at for my beauty or for my body? And when she goes to work, sadly, those clients are more interested to ask her out and to spend time with her, and they try to touch her, you know you know and just trying to be very funny with her, and they text her at night, and they try to ask her other stuff. So at that point of time, especially during the pandemic season, she has to quit her job even though she has two children to feed, because she could not bear that pain anymore. She's being sexually harassed every single day, and her boss is the person who actually initiates that for the clients to do that. But she was brave because she could not take it any longer, and she actually reported it to the labor court, and she won the case. So we need people like that.
Mm.
And that friend colleagues who were around her were also very helpful. They noticed something was wrong, and they actually approached her. And so that, she got the help that she needed. But sadly, a lot of people don't get that. So that is why I'm so interested in doing research in regards to, related to humanity, because I think findings, so for example, what I'm working on right now, when I complete my research, I'm going to write a very strong research report, because it will have strong analysis for me, and I can use that as a foundation, to put that, that to take that report and discuss this with the government and the NGOs and any stakeholders for more funding, for more help for women out there. Because what I can tell you is, based on my findings, a lots of them are not getting the help they need. Even when they go seek help to certain organizations, they're not getting the help. See, so a lots of things cannot be said online, but yeah, so in general, that is still going on, so that is a huge gap that we need to fill in, because if we don't, we are going to get cases like what happened last week. A lady was murdered by her husband in a car. The case where a lecturer was murdered by her husband, I think it made big headlines. She was a lecturer in university. She had marriage troubles with her husband for a long time, and he did not want to grant her a divorce. There was a third party involvement, and finally she got killed. And sadly, she was a lecturer in a university. If only she sought help earlier, or if only somebody, among her college or her varsity, somebody who reached out to her, we can save lives. That's all I'm saying. We can save lives. We just have to work harder as a team. Yeah.
Mm. I think that it is very poignant that you brought up a case which is recent, which include a woman that is, we're not talking about someone who is in a lower social economic status, but we're talking about someone who's actually a lecturer. So this is gender violence, gender-based violence can happen to anyone. Doesn't mean that you're educated, means you are safe from
Yes.
it.
Very true. Very true. So that's why I'm telling, everyone faces something, everyone, you and I, every one of us, we do face some kind of violence in a daily basis. It's just that the way it happens, the people who cause this to us, they come from various backgrounds. It can be at workspace. I've spoken to people who have gone through such traumatizing childhood, such traumatizing school life, and it impacts them till today, and they're so demotivated to live their life now, just because they were body shamed and they were bullied in school. So things like this happens in a daily basis to everyone. So it's our duty, to stop. I mean, we can't stop this entirely, it's a huge thing, but we can contribute, and to save lives. And especially, it's not only about somebody dying or somebody getting injured, but mental illness, that's something that we have to look into. Everyone is battling that these days, and it's a taboo. It's something, so it's still taboo in our country. So we have to break all these, and we have to create lots of awareness to change a lot of things, but we can do it together. One person, it's difficult, but as a team, all of us, we can do lots of things.
Indeed, well said. So, Dr. Vino, I'm very curious, given that in our She community, most of our women are probably going to be working professionals in different profession. Why do you think, what is the mindset of a working professional female who's educated but yet still allow herself to be a victim of gender-based violence? What's the thought process behind, and why is that still happening despite us being educated?
Yes. Okay, that is a very good question. People ask questions like, people are very judgmental. You see, so that is very wrong. So what happens when somebody still stays in a decides to stay in a relationship despite being, abused, ever she could be abused. She has her own reasons, but that is why we need to help people like this because, education doesn't play a role when it comes to love, when it comes to connection with somebody. People can, love is very huge. You cannot describe love. It's different for everybody. We can see somebody getting abused, and yet the person is still with that partner. Okay, I do not want to say if it's a man or woman. You see, men get abused too, but in a different way. Women get abused in a different way, but statistics clearly shows women are more abused. But what I'm saying is, why are they deciding to stay with their partner or the person they love? Is because they love the person too much. They cannot see the danger behind it. So they think that they can help change the person by being with the person. But they also have to understand, if they do not get help for that person immediately, he could be probably, battling some kind of mental illness himself, or he could be dependent on a certain substance. So she has to help him that way rather than just staying with him, living a life with him without exploring ways to help his side. If she loves him so much, she should bring him for, a professional treatment. She should bring him to a mental, health professional, something like that. You see, for example, I can tell you a very recent incident that happened in Hawaii, because I did my PhD in Hawaii. So um, there was a person, she was doing her first degree when I started my PhD. So we were both in the same, in the John Abraham School. She was doing public health and I was doing epidemiology. So I used to help her. She was a newbie, and I used to guide her. So what happened last week, I found out that she was murdered. And it's so sad. She was murdered just 2 days ago. We found out that she was murdered in her apartment. And apparently, she was murdered by her fiance, who was actually, they were together for a long time. But the thing is, he he actually had severe mental illness. He had severe mental illness. He had some issues before, but the authorities actually released him. Okay, they knew that he actually set up fire in some buildings. He has killed some animals before, when he was younger. But when he was brought in and when he was evaluated, he did show signs of being mentally ill, but they actually let him go. And then he got together with my friend, and they were together for a long time. But he ended up killing her, stabbing her multiple times because of his mental illness. And she died. So things like this happen. You see, because sometimes when you're so blinded by love, you don't see the real hazard behind it. The person, for all you know, the person you love can actually be battling something very, very severe, and he needs help. So you have to help him. You cannot help by just being with him, just by telling him, I love you, don't worry, I will not leave you. It's not going to solve anything. He's going to end up dead, and you're probably going to end up dead as well, and your kids. But if you can help him in a professional way, bring him and get him all the help. There are many people who are living happy lives now, getting treated. But sometimes some people, like their partners are not mentally ill, they're just abusers. They're just plain abusers. They love to abuse whoever they are with. So, and they still cannot accept the fact that somebody they love so much is actually a person like that. So they will be battling this, and I'm sure they have a group of friends or people who can notice all these differences in that person. So it's our duty, when we see somebody going through like that indirectly, we have to approach, we have to help, because it makes a difference. When you go to them and ask them what's bothering them and bring them out, they will definitely pour their feelings or whatever they're going through. Of course, not on the same day. You have to listen. You have to be patient. You can never tell a person, don't worry, it's going to be okay. It doesn't work. Okay, Tell me what's going on. I want to listen. I'm here for you. And let them speak, let them pour. And then you can make a difference. You can help them, you can bring them out and you can actually save a life. So people like that need people like, us or anybody else to help them. They need help, but they're just not asking for it. So you have to be really observant and you have to be really patient to help somebody who's in this kind of situation. All they need is guidance. They need some sort of guidance and some sort of help for them to come out of it. Yeah.
Hmm. I'm so sorry about your friend, Dr. Vino. That is really shocking. And I think that really brings home the reality that gender-based violence, it sounds so technical and so far away and perhaps abstract, but it is far from abstract. Um, if we ourselves don't know, we probably know someone who knows of someone else who either have been through, survived, or is currently going through gender-based violence. So this is really something that should concern every one of us. Um, Not just the women, but the men as well. You need to be able to know what are the signs so that if your sister, your good friend, or your colleague is going through a challenging time, you need to be proactive. Like Dr. Vino has mentioned, you need to ask and you need to offer help because at a time like this, we really need all the mental support that we can get. And we might
Absolutely.
be holding back for whatever reasons or misguided expression of love. We really need people to rally around us and to show us the right way if we have been misguided ourselves.
That's very right, Joy. That's very right. We all play roles. I always believe all of us have a purpose, to be in this world, so we are supposed to help each other. That's the only way you can restore humanity. If not, it's going to go towards destruction and you're not going to have any more goodness. It's going to be plain evil if no one steps in and help. So yeah, I strongly believe we can all make differences if only we put our heart and soul into it. So yeah. Yeah.
So as you can see, our expert panel is full of passionate women who's very knowledgeable in their niche, and they really want to empower women using their own skills and superpowers, and that definitely includes Dr. Vino. So when I spoke to her, it was like very clear in my head, I need to get this she inside the she community.
Right, right. I'm so happy to. There's so much more we can do. So yeah, that is what I wanted to say. Another thing, since people are watching, we should never think that there's nobody to help us. So there will always be somebody to help you. You just have to ask. You see, when I speak to my fellow participants, that's the same thing they were telling me. At that point of time, I could not see. I thought my whole life is gone. I thought that this is it. This is why I was born, this is why I'm going to die. But then they did get help, but sometimes they got it a little late, very late, or sometimes very soon. But there is always somebody who can actually help you, but you have to somehow seek help. You have to show, you have to, if it's difficult to speak out, you can show it to somebody you're close with, that you're not happy, you're not happy. You can just show it, and then if that person cares for you, the person is going to make a difference. So it's very important. So do not think that when you're coming out from an abusive platform, no matter where it is, it could be a workspace, it could be a family, it could be the person you're married to, the person you're living with, anybody. Just think that I'm going to go and reach out to somebody. We cannot hide this anymore, because when we need help in this, we have to ask for help, because if not, our whole life is going to be perished and we're not going to get it back. And once it's gone, you're not going to get it back. You don't have a restart button. So that is what I'm telling, like, reach out. There are many, like, now we are in she, everyone who's attending this know me, know you. Just reach out to any one of us, when you need somebody to even listen. That makes a difference. So, and to everyone else out there, always look out, always be alert. It can be a stranger, if you're taking a train and if you think somebody is so disturbed and you think that person is sick, if you see somebody crying, approach them. Don't think that it's not my business if that person is crying. No, she might be attempting suicide, and you can actually change a whole life by asking her, are you okay, ma'am? I have a tissue, take my tissue. That will change someone's life. Trust me, it has happened. I've done that. A lot of people have done that, and they've changed someone's life. So yeah, I think some take away messages for people, for everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Vino. So before we wrap up this session, I'm wondering whether you have anything special you want to share, advice to give to the men, because I think we are talking a lot about the women, but this is a she network is a he for she and she for he community. What word of advice do you have for the men?
Yes. Okay. That is a very good yeah, question, or sharing, or you call it. So in general, if you ask me, nobody is born bad. Nobody. You see, everyone is born. Babies, right? Plain cloth, white cloth, no stains, nothing at all, plain, pure. So no one is born bad. Everyone, even a person, okay, a serial murderer, okay, a serial killer, he has a past. If you deep dive and to see why actually he became a serial killer, he's probably from a very, very abusive background. He saw some bad things in his family, and that polluted his mind and ate up his mind, and he became psychotic. So everybody has a reason, to do something. So no one is bad, but sometimes some people, for example, anger. You see, some people, I'm not going to use gender, I'm not going to say man or woman, I'm just going to say people. Okay, some humans or some people, they cannot control their anger. Generally, even the tiniest thing can just trigger them, and they go berserk, and they can just punch something, or they get hit something. And if, let's say, they're discussing something, probably, during the pandemic, I would just go back to the whole lockdown crisis, not only in Malaysia but worldwide, since I'm also working with COVID, right? So worldwide, if you see, the spike is there, in violence at home, is because they had difficulty economically. They are challenged. Okay, they're financially not stable anymore, because they're not able to go to work. They're not able to get money for their family. So men in general, what happens is, they cannot control their anger, because, oh, they'll be thinking, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to support my family? So at that particular time, when they have some difficulty with their wife, they tend to lose it, and they tend to hit their wives, only to realize later, some of them, they do realize they've made a mistake. But what I would like to say is, whenever anyone is angry on anything or any issue, do not show it another person. If you think you're so angry you're going to hit something, just walk out from the room. You do not have to stand in front of another human being, because you can't control it anymore. So okay, tell yourself, I don't want to hurt anybody, I'm just going to walk out of the room, maybe get a chill beer, or maybe just go out for a little bit, jog or smoke, do something. And then once you're calm, then you come back home and speak. This is I think this applies to everybody. Same goes to women too. Before we say words that can trigger. Sometimes when we're angry, we use all kinds of profanities or words that we don't intend to use. So before we say all those things, let's tell ourselves, okay, we don't discuss this now. You're angry, I'm angry, I'll go this way, I'm going to do some cooking, I'm going to go and sing, I'm going to dance. Okay, you go out, get a beer, or take a puff, and then let's come back. Let's watch a movie with our kid, and then let's discuss the night. Things like that. Very simple things. So, and if some people do have mental issues they cannot control, they have to seek help. It's not an embarrassing thing to say that we are disturbed mentally. All of us go through in this in a daily basis, but sometimes we cannot control certain things. So if we think that we need some kind of help, seek help. Go to professionals, get some advice from psychiatrists. Go for counseling sessions. All these helps. So yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, if you allow me to talk, I can talk for a whole day. But yeah, I hope that helps.
Yes. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Vino. I know your passion, and that's the very reason why you are here sharing, because this is what you love. And I love that the research are not kept in cabinets, but it's coming alive now, sharing with the women in our she community and also the he for she in our community. So thank you so much, Vino. So at this point, I want to invite in Laura, and I'm curious what Laura might have to say about your session. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Joy. Hi, Dr. Vino. Well, I think I'll start with what you ended with, which is I think it's fantastic that we have someone who wants to keep talking about this all the time, because I think we need more and more and more women and men talking about this because it's so important. So yeah, I just want to start by encouraging you to keep talking. I think use every avenue because I think this is the work that you're doing is absolutely so important, so vital. So thank you for talking and sharing with us today. And I also loved, I think just on a similar note as well, I love how you talk about it's not just women, but it's men as well. And I think that's something that in She Network, we absolutely believe. We even have our he for she ambassadors, because I think it's going to take both men and women. Like men can also keep an eye out for what's happening in their community. They can also see like when different situations are happening, whether it's with their friends or their male friends or even with their female friends who may be in these kinds of situations. And I think that's so important to highlight. And I love how you bring that up, that yes, today we're focusing on women and because that's our passion and that's the platform. But without forgetting that reality that it is a human problem. It is not a man problem or a woman problem, but it is a human problem. And thank you really for just bringing that to the forefront. Really appreciate having you and very excited to hear more of, I think, just being on the cutting edge of the research that you're doing.
Right, right. I'm so glad. Yeah, we can make difference every single day, right? So why not through? Yeah. So I'm so happy I got this chance today. Many more to go. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, Dr. Vino, would you like to share what's your wish for She Network?
Yes, yes. I wrote it down so that I don't forget saying it. But my honest and my utmost wish for She Network is to work along you guys, to work with you in this awesome platform to contribute towards creating a safe space and to empower every single precious soul. Yeah. So I'm just going to say precious soul. No labeling who, for everybody. Yeah. That's my wish.
So,
Fantastic. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so my dear She's, let's end this empowering session. Very informative. And let's end it on a high note with our Wonder Woman pose. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay. Thank you for joining us as well. So we're going to end this session now, but don't leave wherever you are. Stay on screen because coming right up in about 9 minutes, we have a real big treat. We have Trudy Bateman, the head of Strengths Profile, coming in to tell us what are the research insights on women's strength. So another real treat. So don't go anywhere. Catch you later. See you.
See
Bye.
you.